Hey everybody, Coach here. Happy New Year and welcome to Yard Coach 2022. Hey, we're starting off with a topic that I have not covered at all, really, except for maybe physical shape type of thing. But we're talking about project safety and project liability. That's what we're getting into. You know, after a few decades of green industry service, I have seen some blunders. I'll even share one that even Coach made one time. I didn't end up in the hospital, but I did forget. Anyway, in this case, nobody is going to end up in the ER, nobody is going to end up in a courtroom, and nobody is going to end up worse than that, all right? Hey, welcome. New year, let's kick it off strong. Be right back. Hey, I'm Matt. You can call me Coach. Every Friday, I bring with me landscape DIY education, concepts and theories, ideas and solutions, so you guys can go out and tackle a landscape project yourself, get professional results, save a whole lot of money in the process, and in this day and age, be a lot more self-reliant. Man, after a 20-plus year career in the green industry, I'm bringing with me a lot of knowledge and experience that I want to share with you guys, the new, modern, educated, self-reliant homeowner of today. You know, tackling a full DIY landscape makeover is a formidable task. There is no doubt about it. It's as big as ripping out the whole kitchen and redoing it yourself, putting on a whole new addition. Now, for some of you out there, maybe you're inclined to be able to do those kinds of things, and maybe it's easy for you. But for some of you, it's a daunting task, especially when you don't know where to start. Well, I have covered in droves of education on this channel and on the podcast countless ways that you can plan, design, schedule, execute, do all the things that you have to do. Well, what we're dealing with today is making sure that you go from A to Z safely. Not only you, but everybody who comes in contact with this project, everybody. And you may have some eye openers when you think about this. You know, when we're talking about safety and liability, you may be the tip of the spear. And that's a very important position to be in because you're going to be wearing many, many hats. One of them is going to be safety officer. Another hat you may be wearing is risk and liability. And as you're cleaning out your trenches, as you're putting together your new landscape, you're always on the watch. You are the guard dog of your landscape project, especially if it is in the front yard. You can imagine every family member that's involved, friends that come to help, the mailman delivering the mail. How about the Amazon delivery person? And do not forget Mr. and Mrs. Granddad and Granny Smith out walking the dog in the late evening before they turn in. All of this kind of safety and liability comes a big play so that you can sleep at night. This video is nothing about scaring you away from it. This video is solely focused on making sure you are focused and that you have your arms and your head around the risk that goes on when you start ripping and tearing and opening that ground up. So safety, the word itself kind of has a really broad brush approach when you have to think about it. You have to think about physical safety, obviously. You have to think about your own personal safety as far as your capabilities and everybody who you are asking to help or who are getting involved. Safety when it comes to even subcontractors that you're going to bring on to the project and making sure that they work safely. And I will talk to you about subcontractors and liability in just a couple of minutes. Very important. Don't leave the channel. Many of the accidents that I saw safety-wise is because of naivete. Naivete and ego. And when I say that, I'm talking about people who pick up hand tools and power tools they are not familiar with. Oh, they may tell you, I got this, no big deal. You know, but within a couple of minutes of watching, you realize, you recognize, at least from my professional standpoint, you recognize someone who knows how to use a pick. You recognize someone who knows how to use an axe. You recognize someone who knows how to start, operate, and finish a cut with a chainsaw. or getting behind a power tool that's much more powerful, like a rear tine tiller, or maybe a trencher, or even a skid steer. Yeah, there are those people who say they are able to do it, and then those who need to be pushed out of the way, and they need to be practicing first before they do anything. There ain't nothing like something that I saw a few times in my career, not done by yours truly, but taking a bucket of a skid steer and going through a stucco wall, or knocking down a whole section of fence because they started the bucking bronco routine with a skid steer and went right through the fence. Yeah, those are the kinds of things that you just don't want on a DIY landscape project. Other things, when you get into practicing before you actually practical application, make sure people know how to use that pick. You know, I have seen the pointed end of picks go into lower legs. I have seen, and this is where Coach forgot one time, where I was dragging branches out to the dump trailer while the crew was knocking a few things down. And I saw one branch that was a little too long, and so I took the pruning saw and I started in without safety equipment on my hands, and I ended up coming off the branch and going right through my left hand, near between my pointer finger and my thumb. Opened that puppy up pretty darn good. Had to run to the store, Terry Strip City, gauze bandages, Neosporin, heavy duty wraps, and I looked like I had a white club on my hand for another week or two. Yeah, it was pretty nasty. I probably should have got stitches. I really should have. I probably should have got in and got that thing put back together just a little bit better, but it turned out okay. But hey, you know, you take your eye off the ball just one time, and those are the kinds of things that can happen. So simple little mistakes that can be made. Things like leaving hand tools in the improper place. How about an upside down tine rake that someone can step on? Or, like we'll discuss liability-wise, knowing what's underground before you start digging and trenching, etc. You know, you have previous owners there. You just don't know what previous owners have done. That's why when you do buy a property, you ask as many questions as you possibly can. And in your home inspection, you're looking for that, boy, that doesn't look quite to code. Why is that naked wire coming out of the wall and going into the ground? That's the kind of stuff you have to pay attention to, because if you do end up redoing the landscape, don't forget that. It could be an energized line that you suddenly go through with a trencher, and then you got a problem. Now you got an energized line wrapped in a trencher chain. Now what are you going to do? Because you don't even know where it connects. You're going to have to shut off your whole house to get it undone. So safety, inspection, and vigilance, very important. When I came on the job site, I always had kind of a prepared speech for my clients. And as excited as they were to get the project underway and everything, I kind of had to sit down a couple days ahead of time and I'd give them a safety speech. I really would. You know, I'd always say things like, when I'm here, if you want to see what's going on, I got no problems. But I'm not here, that's the part that worries me. So you have to be careful with the kids. You have to be careful with the pets, especially when I started to open the ground up for one reason or another. Especially during demolition that wasn't all done in one single day, and things, trip hazards and other stuff. One of the things that I always did, and my insurance company kind of suggested this to me, which I agreed with, is I always did a pre-day and a post-day inspection of the site. I made sure that if there was any safety issues, all tools were stored away. I had a trailer usually, so most everything went back inside. But if some things stayed out overnight, then they would be put in a place where no one could trip over them. Power tools, if they were left behind and they were keyed, like my skid steer or something like that, they were always unkeyed. And if it was a multiple day vacating of the site, everything went back in the trailer. Everything. Nothing got left. And usually people understood it. A lot of people wanted to get involved and see what was happening. Maybe they went off to their 9 to 5 and they wanted to see the progress of the day. I got no problem with that. It is their property, but my God, I would never want that phone call. And I never had that phone call of the little 3-year-old Janie who goes out there and I'm digging a water feature and I got a 24-inch deep hole and she falls in and busts her front teeth out. I would not be able to live with myself. That would be a horrible, horrible event. So things generally got covered one way or another, and I'll talk to you more about that in just a sec. You know, there are a lot of professionals out there that think they have their heads wrapped around the 9 to 5 landscape routine, and most of them do. There's a lot of good people out there. But there are some that, like I did when I cut my hand. You know, I mean, I was a decade into it or more when that happened. And it's kind of a complacency thing. You kind of take your eye off the ball. And as you do, that becomes a habit. And pretty soon, you know, the boss man or the foreman or whoever, you know, is not paying attention to what's going on. And that is when I have seen issues come up. That's when I've seen employees get hurt. That's when I have seen utilities get sacrificed, tools get broken, and people going to the hospital. So pay attention, especially when you first get started. This is not your bailiwick. This is not your 9 to 5. So going out there with a chainsaw, going out there with a pruning saw, taking stuff down, ripping stuff out of the ground, practice a little bit first. Give it a couple hours and pace yourself. Once you start becoming proficient, then that safety line in the sand, you can push back very gradually as your proficiency increases. That's really important. Don't allow it to become an ego thing. Don't push people out of the way to finish. Teach, lead, and make sure everything stays safe and secure. So Coach, how do we do it? How do we eliminate the risk and safety problems when it comes to DIY landscape projects? Well, first thing is you do not eliminate. There's no way. You have that thing called human error and human frailty that enter into everything that you do on a landscape project or any home DIY project. There's always a little bit of risk. What's your job? Your job is to minimize it, monitor it, and visualize it for safety, including yourself more than anything. You know, if you have a spouse or a partner, you know, their job too is to monitor you, and vice versa. If you're doing something weird or you're getting into a place like, you know, say like a roof line to start trimming stuff, or the top of a wiggly fence to knock down that last branch, that's when somebody needs to say something. You don't want things like this going on, or maybe this right here. Those kinds of things are project ending events. Project ending events, PEVs. Okay, and you do not want that. You want it to go from A to Z in a nice smooth fashion. There's going to be times where you're going, nyah, 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 okay, where things are a little hairy. Maybe you're behind schedule. Maybe you got more than one subcontractor on site. Maybe you're not quite done with the irrigation and the concrete guy's showing up for flat work. Okay, it's all right as long as everybody's safe. Maybe they have to delay. Maybe your sub has to delay for 4 hours or a day. Maybe you have to step it up and get some lights and be out there the night before and make sure all those trenches are all filled in. Everything's ready to go, and now the flat work can start. Just saying. Just saying. So how do you avoid some of the things that I just mentioned when you have schedules that start to butt heads a little bit? It's all basically planning. If you think that you can get your demolition done down to a blank canvas or whatever on your existing DIY landscape makeover, give yourself an extra 2 days. Just do it. You may be gung-ho to get to the next phase and stuff, but if you are in the middle of demolition and all of a sudden you know that Randy the concrete guy is going to be there tomorrow morning, and you still have got roots in the way and stumps to grind and all this other kind of stuff, you hate picking up the phone going, Randy, I thought I could get it done in 7. I'm going to need 9. And Randy goes, dude, I got a schedule too. We scheduled this 3 months ago. You're the man. I know, but I got a pine tree stump right in the middle where the patio is supposed to go. See what I mean? So if you think you can do it in 7, give it 9 or 10 days. Now, as far as their schedules, subcontractors, to remain safe, make sure they say, we'll have this done in 3 days. Give them 4, no problems. Okay, for all you front yarders, front yard makeovers, listen up. Front yards are a great aesthetic development to really increase the property values, the aesthetic values of your home. No problems with that. But taking those things down to a blank canvas and starting over, there's a couple of key places where you really want to be careful liability-wise. And we're going to shift the video now from safety to liability and risk. If you have an unsafe front yard, you have busted up concrete, you have drainage lines going in, irrigation going in, whatever it might be, and you know darn well that someone could trip, someone could fall in. That is the clue. That's the mental clue and the hair on the back of your neck where you've got to make sure you render that place safe. How do you do that? My first barrier is yellow caution tape. That was always my first barrier. If I had to leave open trenches for some reason, I went to the box store and I pulled out 4x8 sheets, 3 or 4 of them, and I would lay out cut OSB sheets over those open trenches. Then I would still have cones. I had bought some orange cones, and I even had that orange mesh construction fencing, I guess you could call it, the best thing. And I would drive some T-posts in, and I would orange fence it, I would cover everything. That way when I got home, I never had to worry about whether someone was gonna fall in. I had informed my client, the homeowner, I had done everything physically possible. If something happened after that, it wasn't gonna be on me. It was gonna be on someone doing something they shouldn't have been doing. Liability, we live, especially in the States, and I'm sure it's the same in other parts of the world, we live in a very litigious society. If someone lets their guard down and they run into you with a car, if someone falls off the roof and the company they work for doesn't have any workers' compensation, they're coming after the homeowner and the homeowner's insurance policy, maybe even the homeowner's property. And that's not the kind of risk we want to put in. So one of the things that I suggested many years ago when remote cameras came out, that is, mom and dad have to go to work. You got to pay for what Matt's doing, right? So I would say, hey, go find yourself some cheap remote cameras. Put them up on the corners of the fence or in the windows inside, and record the times that subcontractors or Matt is there. And if you see something that really kind of goes, what the F are they doing? Then you have something you can show them. Now, I had to work very closely with subcontractors, and I trusted 99% of the people that I really had a good working and personal relationship with these guys. They really were highly skilled, highly professional, and they work safe for the most part. But if you're doing it yourself, maybe you don't know that electrician that's pulling energy over to your new shed, your man shed, your she shed. Maybe you don't know the plumber that's putting a gas line over to a new outdoor barbecue, and are they working right? Are they working safe? Just a way to monitor, and if something does go to hell, you got some video evidence to back it all up. Hey, we all know how much medical bills can be. I mean, a simple, I was watching something on the news not too long ago. It was in 2021, and I heard that the hospitals and the ERs were so overrun with COVID stuff that things like broken arms and lower leg breaks and stuff, they were not getting seen. They didn't have anybody to see you. So what better way to prevent than make sure we work safe? Here's another thing that I saw a lot of times, and a lot of times I had to throw the big timeout up when I had day laborers and other people show up, and that is what people wear. Safety and liability come into play in both realms. When someone shows up on wheelbarrow day, concrete day, demolition day, anything in a landscape field, and they have open-toed sandals. They have shorts. They have shorts on, and they have nothing maybe but a wife beater t-shirt or a really oversized, loose, short-sleeve shirt. No sun protection, nothing. And I would just say, I'm sorry. I told your company what safety equipment and what clothes to wear. You chose to show up in what you did. You're not working on my job. More than happy to come back in a couple hours if you want, but I can't use you. I don't want you getting hurt. So sometimes being at the top of the food chain on the job site, you had to make tough decisions. And me telling them to go home wasn't that tough a decision, but oh my God, would it be a tough decision if that person got hurt? Even for the company that I was renting them from. You got another workers' comp claim coming up because, oh, you know, they smashed their big toe with a piece of concrete that they were putting into the wheelbarrow. Plain and simple. So some of the things I always insisted that I wore and that I insisted people who worked on the job site wore is, number one, starting at the feet. You always had boots. You did not have tennis shoes. You did not have open-toed anything. The boots were a minimum, and I usually wore a steel-toed boot. Long pants, never shorts. Colder the weather, the heavier the pant. The hotter the weather, the lighter type of long pant. I usually wore Carhartt type of stuff, but shirts, wintertime got long sleeves, summertime got short sleeves, and they were kind of a fitted shirt, nothing dangly and floppy out there where something could get snagged. I did not wear any bling. I had no Mr. T starter kit hanging around my neck, and the hat, I always had hat on, generally a wide brim for sun protection. My particular family had a lot of skin cancer, and I made sure that I protected myself with sunscreen on my nose and ears and on my forearms most of the time. Anyway, all right, so here's the takeaway from today's video. Here's a little summary. So what can you do? What can you do as part of your getting ready to do things? What are some of the top steps you need to pay attention to? First of all, educate yourself. Educate on your homeowner's policy. You can read it if you really want to go to sleep really fast. My suggestion is pick up and call your agent or call the company and tell them what you're doing and that you are going to have maybe some subcontractors in, and what kind of things do you need to pay attention to insurance-wise on your property. When it comes to tools, if you're renting, make sure you always get instructions at the yard. Do not leave that yard. Even if they're busy, do not leave that yard without being shown how to do it unless you already have previous skills. That includes chainsaws, trenchers, rototillers, skid steers, anything along those lines that are going to require a little bit of practice. Hand tools the same way. You haven't swung an axe, and I guarantee you I could take 10 people, line them up, put axes in their hands, and I say, okay, chop that piece of wood right there. I'll tell you every single one that has had minimal exposure to an axe and people who know how to use an axe. Okay, so practice a little bit. Become comfortable. There ain't nothing worse than trying to chop roots out of a big pit of sporum you're taking out, only to turn around and go, I don't know. How far do I spread my, oh, I have to spread my feet. Oh, okay. Oh, I have to put the axe in a center position so that there's no deflections on things into my shins, which I saw right through heavy, long pants. I can't imagine if it was a shorts situation and that axe went right into that dude's lower leg. Yeah, he was done. He was done for about a month because it went to the bone, Jack. So we want to make sure that we are careful. If you're using picks to take shrubs out, you make sure that you're always knowing where you're going into, where the strike's going to be, what kind of leverage you're going to do, and protect your back, protect your shoulders, and everything else. There's a lot involved in case you haven't picked up on those clues. Tip of the spear is always the monitor. You are the risk and liability. You are the safety officer on your own job site. If you see your son doing something he shouldn't be doing, it's your job. It's not like, oh, it'll be all right, he'll be fine, until you hear the crying, all right? So don't take those chances. Tell Billy to put the shovel down temporarily and Dad will show you how, or Mom will show you how, okay? Don't let him just go willy-nilly. Prevent and minimize, you know, you can only do so much, but prevent and minimize and make sure that you store your stuff away and out of the way. Keys are taken out of power equipment. Do not rush the job. If, dang it, you're not going to get all the trenching done in 1 4-hour period, just keep the damn thing for a day and suck it up, Buttercup. You're going to just spend a little bit more money, but at least you're not going to be going gonzo. You're not going to be going gonzo. When it comes to utilities, I always tell everybody, call right here, 811. It's the national number that goes to a national clearinghouse and will delegate your local utility people to come and inspect and mark out where your utilities are. Do not go off and start trenching, especially front yards, especially newer developments where utilities come in between the two homes, every other one. Don't go trenching out there if you haven't called. Man, you are going to regret it. Not only that, but any damages because you did not call is going to be on you. Go ahead. Put a trencher right through a Xfinity cable coming into your home, and it knocks out the whole goddamn block. Yeah, then you'll be popular. You really will. Know where your gas lines are. Know where the electrical's coming in. If you have an existing yard and you don't know where everything is, do some exploratory things with shovels first, slow and easy. If you think your out back garage has power to it, do you know where it comes from and do you know where it goes? Because it's going right across where your project is. So pay a little attention. Maybe there was a permit pulled. You can always check at your county or city. Maybe you have the number of the real estate agent that represented your seller. They can get a hold of them and say, hey, you know, Coach Matt's doing a landscape job back there and he doesn't know where the power line is going to the back garage. Can you give me some information so I could forward it to him? Okay, go that extra step. Go that extra step, because if something does go wrong, you've covered your butt with Kevlar. Okay, lastly, guys, wrapping this up, the last thing I want to focus on is the highlights of a landscape project where safety is the biggest concern. Number one is demolition. Getting out there first with family and friends, and you're ripping and tearing, you're going to do a great job. But that's when the experience is at its least and the risk is at its highest. So be careful. Start slow. Judge who your friends are and what their capabilities are, okay? Power tool use, chainsaws, trenchers, rototillers. If you get a rototiller, I always encourage a rear tine. Don't go getting a front tine, especially if your ground tends to be kind of hard. Even if you've pre-wet it, I guarantee you, you're only going to pre-wet it, especially with some type of soils, about an inch. And once that rototiller goes through that soft stuff, then you're going to be bouncing. And when a rototiller starts bouncing around, sometimes you don't know where it's going to end up. Remember the properly worn clothes. Remember those, kind of important. You want to go out and putt around in flip-flops. It's after everything is done. The project is complete, okay? Keep a site as safe as possible, especially at the end of a day. All tools are stored, and make sure you know your homeowner's policy. Bam, bam, the first one for 2022 is in the books. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope that it's not the most exciting topic in the world, but if you could take away just one preventable injury or one lawsuit on your property or your personal estate, then I've done my job. Hey, as always, to your landscape success, if you'd like to help coach out just a little bit, head on over to the website, youryardcoach.com. Check out the book and the course. I always have the free DIY 15-step giveaway. I'll see you guys next week. As always, take care.